Welcome, everyone. This is Joe Dager, the host of the Business 901 podcast. With me today is Alan Moore. Alan is an entrepreneur, author, and speaker. Working at the intersection between design, technology, and business, he possesses a unique grasp on the changes that are reshaping our world and an insight and passion on how to transform them. Alan is, in essence, devoted to crafting beautiful businesses. Big fan of yours, Alan, from your past books, most noticeably No Straight Lines. And I'd like to welcome you. And besides being an author, what else are you up to?
Well, Joe, first of all, thanks very much for inviting me onto the podcast. It's a pleasure to be in esteemed company that you had here. So what are the other things? So actually, I have, as I live a multidisciplinary life, I do a lot of gardening. Serious gardening. I have a 2-acre plot that I love and tend and care for. I tend to write poetry, and I've done a lot of poetry writing over the whole of my life. I do a lot of drawing. I'm a big motorcycle fan, so I've got a Honda Fireblade. If anyone's into motorcycling, then it's a big, very fast machine. And on this particular bike, I've probably done about 160,000 miles, which is rather unusual, actually, for such a fast sports bike. But I also love walking, so I do a lot of walking where I live. I would say that I am endlessly curious, which is a bit of an addiction, actually, because you kind of find yourself suddenly going, oh, that's really interesting, and you're down a path and down a road, and you've kind of forgotten maybe the other things you do. And these days, I do quite a lot of yoga, actually, so that's my kind of attempt to being more restorative to my body, shall we say, than perhaps the things I would have done in the past. So they're the sorts of things that keep me busy.
A very, very busy man, it seems like, and everything, and enjoying the simple things of life. And I say that in all due respect, okay, because all of us should.
Exactly. No, they're the best things, I think, to be honest with you. You know, if you can't enjoy those things, then maybe we should look again and think, maybe why aren't we enjoying those very simple things in life? So, yes.
Well, I want to jump into your new book, but before we do, tell me about the Do Book Company. I mean, what is that? That's kind of something different in the publisher. Tell me about that.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I've spoken to, like the princess that needs to, kiss a lot of frogs before they find the prince, or vice versa. I have spent a long time talking to lots of book agents and lots of publishers, and of course, we know that publishing, like every other industry on this planet, has been disrupted, transformed, and changed over the last, 10 to 20 years. And the Do Books is run off a thing called the Do Lectures, and that was set up by a guy called Dave Hyatt and his wife, and a number of other guys who essentially give talks that are about inspiring people to go and do stuff in this world. So the idea is that, by listening to these people talking about things, that will help people, give them the energy, the motivation, the positivity to go, I can get up from this floor, from this room, from this space, and I can go and do something. And it's all about very practical and positive change. Now, whether that's mastery of a new skill or a craft, or perhaps like with my book, a shift in mindset in terms of how we see the world and how we see the world with greater potential, that's where the Do Books comes in. And I was very happy, actually, to work with Miranda West, who's the publisher at the Do Book Company, because they marry, for me, a purpose to their work. Actually, creatively, she was brilliant in working with me on the book, but equally, they understand distribution is still key and important in this world, and they make those things happen.
Well, the book is part of a series then, and are they all kind of connected? I mean, they're all about design, or are they all different things?
No, I mean, they're wildly different. In fact, there's a lady that's just published a book called Do Preserve, which is about preserving foodstuffs, fruits. There's someone that's just done something about beekeeping. But then there's things about brands, and there's things about purpose, and there's things about disruption. And I think that for me, it's about not working from a very high level. It's about creating a language and a way of talking to anyone that could pick up these books and go, this has something in it for me that makes sense, that I can do something today to change my life.
So
And that was very important to me.
yeah, so we're sitting here, we're talking about even your book. Then is that when we think about design, it could be just simply designing a garden, of getting inspired at something at that level. Okay, to find beauty in that.
Absolutely. No, I think that the principle that I take is everything in this world that is touched by the hand of man is designed. So there comes a point where it doesn't exist, but we're faced with what I would call a challenge. How do I solve that problem? It's like, how do I build how do I build the first bridge? How do I create an instrument that can help me cut something? So the first flint tools, and we can go on and on about this. So if everything is designed, then to me we have the potential and the possibility to actually create it in such a way that it can be restorative, it can be beautiful, it can give value, and it can uplift us as human beings. And in many ways, the stories and examples that I give in the book, which are, from Doug Engelbert, who invented the mouse and hypertexting and video conferencing, to the Shakers, are examples of people which have really gone about it in that way.
Well, you have a lot of case studies in the book,
Yeah.
and which one do you think incorporates that overall message more?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, in some respects, of course, my answer to you is there aren't that many case studies. So it's not like there's 100 case studies. There's a few, and I would say each and every one brings its own unique message. However, I think that Yeo Valley Farms is interesting. It's the largest organic dairy farm in the UK. They deliver or create 8 out of every 10 organic yogurts sold in the UK. And, we have a very big market here. But essentially, it's a story of transformation. It's a story of a farm that was going out of business. It was about the owner of the company, Tim Mead, who looked far down the road and could see that if he continued to operate in the way that he did, this farm would go out of business. So he's built a very successful business. It's highly commercial. Their products are sold in all of the major supermarkets in the UK and all of the smaller ones. But they have and create a business which is good for the environment, it's good for business, and it's good for the people that work there. And I think that you could apply that as a principle to many other businesses, whether they are in an organic, farming environment, agricultural environment, or whether actually you're thinking about it digitally. What is it that we create that can create exponential value in the marketplace? Because actually the funny thing is, those things sell.
Well, I think it's interesting because we talked about gardening, we talk about this organic stuff, okay, and
Yeah.
but one of your favorite subjects, I think, is about Pixar.
Yeah.
Are,
So
yeah, and
yeah.
tell me how because that book covers a wide range. Tell me about Pixar.
So in the book, I talk about, so Pixar's there because it's about leadership and it's about culture. And the story about Pixar is essentially that Ed Catmull, realizing after they had floated the company, Toy Story 1 had been a blockbuster success, $1 billion, but 30% of his company had gone down with repetitive strain problems because there'd been a lot of clicking, as you could imagine, the first animated movie on the planet, right? So he realized that they did something exceptional there. Great storytelling. And it's one of the things that Pixar, it's not really just its animation, it's the storytelling. And what he realized is that, as he's in his own words, he says, every movie we start with sucks, but we have to find a mine to the truth of this story. And there are times when they will spend a lot of money, and we're talking tens and tens of millions of dollars, where they decide actually this story is not good enough to continue. But Pixar is interesting because they talk about what they call the mind trust. And it brings people together in the company that represent the entire operational capacity of Pixar, where they investigate and look at and test and push and think about the particular story and the movie that they're making. And what I love about this story is he talks about having to speak with candor, to speak candidly, where trust has to be held within the group. And normally what happens in Hollywood is a film is shown to the investors or to the studio. They will then make some points of view known to the director, which are called director's notes. And the director has to actually follow those notes, whether he thinks they're right or not, because they think that's how it works. This is not how it works at Pixar. So you can only talk positively. You can't speak with negative criticism. You can say, oh, there's something about this character that I feel that we're missing something. How can we do that? And the director can decide whether he wants to take that on board or not. But what is amazing, that by creating that level of honesty, and it is obviously intense, it can be difficult, it's challenging, but it's held in trust, and it's held with the only one objective in that company, which is how can we make another £1 billion film, right?
Wait, well, it's when I'm listening to you, it seems like, okay, they socially connect everyone, and they're functionally probably have certain functions that they carry through, okay? I mean, but what they really try to go to maybe a higher level and expand emotionally, and that's where the design, the connection's made. Does that
That's
make
right.
sense?
No, exactly. I think that, design of culture is very important. So we actually, in this book, although it's a very little book, there's a saying actually in the book which comes from Emerson, the poet and philosopher, the American poet and philosopher, that says, beauty gets us out of surfaces and into the foundations of things. And I think that for me, there is truth in beauty, and that's where immortality can lie with products and services, the cultural things we make. If we really pursue, and that's in a sense really what Ed has got Pixar to do, which is pursue the truth of this movie in its storytelling. At some point, it's going to reveal something universally, which is actually going to really touch people at a fundamentally human level. And that is where I think that company is so interesting. And you could then take that as a design principle for any company around the world and say, if you could operate a company that was essentially, flatter, could operate with that candid honesty, that could only work in a way where constructive feedback is only accepted within the company, what you see is a phenomenal effectiveness at a commercial level that changes the way that company can perform. So to me, it's about performance. In the same way that then we were talking about Year Valley, it's about performance, commercial performance, cultural performance, looking at the utility in the things that you design and create fundamentally change the way that company can compete in the marketplace.
I think what I took from the book, okay, I took the fact that simplicity, utility, sustainability, okay, is that's what you're challenging to develop those traits and start with that mindset. Is that what the book is about? And can you tell me more along that line? Is that what I'm going to get out of the book? Is that higher level of simplicity, maybe?
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that to be commercially successful in this world, if you're looking at really becoming a premium in what you do, then you have to supply a utility which is fundamentally different to any of your competitors. And it can be a very small thing. It can be a bigger thing. But making that and simplifying that to a level where people can intuit it and can understand it, where it's a fantastic experience, a joyful experience. And that could be, again, it could be a small thing, it could be a big thing, right? So, but in a sense, to me, that's where really understanding designing for the human senses, and in a way, that's where the beauty comes in, and where it's, for me, it's about elegance, it's about being graceful. It's a bit like actually the first time, for example, I ever touched a touch screen device, where I'd grown up in an industry, in a mobile industry, where everything was buttons and you were pushing buttons, buttons, buttons. Then somebody came along and said, well, why don't we just have a screen that you can stroke? Because actually, these things are incredibly skillful tools at the ends of our hands called fingers. And so that to me is designing utility and a beautiful experience. And of course, we now have a world which is completely transformed by touchscreen technology. And so that's, in a sense, a great example of designing those things. And even if you were, looking again, if we go back to Yo Valley, the best tasting milk in the country, in my opinion, okay? But that's utility. It's great at what it delivers. And it never, ever, ever lets you down on what it promises it can do for you.
When I'm listening to you describe design, it's like that you're actually, I'm not in the process of designing, but I'm somehow sitting outside of it watching it evolve. Okay, that customer experience side of it, I guess. Okay, I think that's interesting to me because it's like, and I think you say something along that line in the book that you should be designing the experience while you're designing the product. All right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think so. Again, if we took well all of the examples in the book, actually, whether it's the guys that hand build these custom motorcycles, recycled from bikes that had seen better days into these fabulous machines. What's that all about? That's about experience. Going to see a Pixar movie is an incredible experience. Drinking Yo Valley milk is a great experience. Using the Grand Force Brooks Axes is a great experience. If you practice Aikido, it's an incredible experience that does spiritual things to you as a human being. And to me, design has always been, and I feel actually I have a right to say this because I was trained as a typographer, book designer. I've been an art director. I've made furniture. I've designed many things. So for me, I'm not someone that is on the outside without having put my hands on stuff and physically made things. I ask the question is, if I'm going to pick up a pen, or if I'm going to put pixels together or put a business together, the first question I want to ask is, what world are we trying to create? What purpose and what utility can we bring that is going to be transformational? To your point, what outcome? What's the best possible outcome that we could create? And I can't really understand why it is that anyone would want to invest time, energy, and effort and actually ask other people to do the same if you weren't engaged in that same aspiration. And that is the way that I've always conducted my life and worked towards. As I've got older, of course, I've understood that one might see that as one ambitious and too innocent in its process. On the other hand, I believe that if you keep that utopian shore in your sight, as all of the examples I've got in the book will demonstrate, the value that comes back to you is long lasting, sometimes even after you've left this planet as a human being yourself. And I find that enduringly satisfying to want to work in that way.
Sort of watching a flower bloom, right?
Absolutely.
What would you hope someone would take from your book?
I think that I would hope that it's worth the effort to really think about the potential and opportunity of what you could be doing in this world. And I think that it doesn't matter whether you are the CEO of a billion-dollar company or whether you're a craftsman. So I had a very interesting exchange with a CEO the other day, and he said, "So design and beauty, do you really think that could help us rethink what we do and how we make more money?" And I said, "Yes." And then the next thing, I found myself on a plane going off to have a conversation with his board. On the other hand, I had a conversation with a potter the other day who said, "I've just read your book and it's, really helped me think about the work I do and how I do it." And so there are ways in which, I suppose in a sense we have a choice. And the choice is this way maybe sometimes will seem to be a little bit more difficult, but the rewards are so much greater as a consequence of doing that. And actually, if you really commit to doing those things, then making money is never very far behind.
I think that's well said and stuff. And I would say that the best compliment I can give to the book is it made me think different.
Thank you very much. Well, I find that a great compliment, and I'm very grateful for it. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, where can someone find out more about the book and the best way to connect with you?
There is the opportunity to go to Amazon, and so whether that's Amazon.com or Amazon.uk, just put in Alan Moore and Do Design, or you can go to the Do Book Co. or the Do Book Company, and they have all of their books listed there. You can, in fact, on the Do Book Co. website, buy a bundle, which is you can buy the electronic version and the analog version at the same time for a slightly higher price than just buying the analog book. So you kind of get 2 for 1. You can find me on Twitter at ALAN SMLXL or Alan at Alan SMLXL, small, medium, large, extra large. I'm very happy to talk to people about the potential and possibilities of what design can do in this world and how we can make it a bit more beautiful.
Well, I would like to thank you very much, Alan. This podcast will be available on the Business 901 iTunes Store and the Business 901 website. So thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.